Start recording. Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Ma. I think I can also share the screen, even if maybe it's not so useful for anyway. But it's, at least some help. It will be some help. Now, I was mentioning, last time we tried to do some analysis of the Abrahamic religions and ideologies, but maybe it was too technical. So I wanted to ask your help to understand what, in which way we can present the situation, the topic, the subject, in a more basic manner, considering that most Hindus and even, most people who might, watch our videos are not really very familiar with these ideologies, actual teachings. As I often say, text and context. So means the actual literature, we can say scriptures, and the historical context. So for this reason, please interrupt me anytime, as usual.
Sure.
Thanks. Sure. So. I wrote this book in Italian language, which is The Awakening of the Mother Goddess, the rediscovery of the natural religion. So the first volume is the natural religion, and I was planning to make 3 other volumes at least. But anyway, so this is the table of contents. So the introduction, the present situation in the world, Abrahamic ideologies, patriarchalism and the war against nature, reincarnation, nature of the soul, prejudice against the ancient cultures, matriarchate and feminism, integration and balance, illicit and illicit sex, the sacred feminine, religion, magic, folklore, universal symbologies, and conclusion. So it's a package, as we can say, which is practically the message that I was trying to convey when we had our last meeting. So the second part was supposed to be the goddess in history. Third part, meeting the goddess. And which is especially about the Hindu tradition. Then the fourth part, the fourth volume was supposed to be past, present, and future, which means what's happening now and what can happen in the future. So the introduction, okay, we have the introduction. Then the present situation in the world is actually we can say that it is, very, very much, connected with the. Okay, let's see. We have the global warming. I think you can see that if I open it, and it summarizes what I want to say when talking about the present world situation. You didn't see this one, huh? This is an actual advertisement by Christians in the United States, of course, but it's a global movement. Especially the evangelists that are waiting for Jesus' return. And it's saying, global warming, rejoice. Droughts, floods, ecological disasters. And we could add earthquakes, volcanoes, wars, epidemics, financial disasters, political disasters, and all the other type of distractions. He said all these disasters are signs of Jesus' return. So praise God, they're actually happy that we are having all these disasters, and they will not do anything to try to counteract them or avoid them. Especially when we are talking about the ecological disaster. So droughts and floods, maybe there is no direct connection to human activity. But the ecological disaster is definitely ascribed to they call it anthropic causes, means it's connected to human activity of pollution and excessive consumption of resources, deforestation, and creation, industrialization, various kinds of pollution, not just the chemical, but the biological pollution as well. So this gives us a very clear picture. And there is also one famous quote that I don't have read in here, but this Western guy was saying that the present ecological environmental disaster is based on the Christian mentality. So we cannot solve the problem unless we address the Christian mentality. Why? Why is that so? Because they believe Christianity, the Bible, and all the Abrahamic religions say that nature is something that is against God. God is the owner of nature, but God gave man the power to control nature, to dominate nature, to exploit nature. And we can see that this also in the post-Abrahamic ideologies, such as, for example, the communism or the scientism. They also teach that man should have power over nature and dominate it and change it according to his will and exploit it. And this is the fundamental root of the problem that we are facing today. So this is the point that I am elaborating in this section of the book. So the progress, especially the linear progress. So there is a substantial difference between Abrahamic cultures and Hinduism and Vedic culture, because in the Abrahamic and post-Abrahamic cultures there is the idea of linear progress from creation to destruction, and it's one time only. In the Vedic system, in the Hindu Vedic system, this is a cycle. And it repeats forever. So there is, and also it is not a cycle of progress. It's a cycle of degradation. It's a completely different concept. in the idea of linear progress, one starts from a very basic, primitive, bad, level, then goes improving, evolving, progressing up to a point where the next step is the perfection. Is the according to the Abrahamic ideologies and to the Parsi ideology, this perfection has to do away with the material world. So it's the end of the bad material world, and it's the creation of a new eternal spiritual world. Spiritual, maybe not spiritual, but perfect world that is called a messianic kingdom, the messianic era. All the three Abrahamic religions, as well as the Zarathustrian religion, have this idea. There was a creation, and then things progressed, people evolved, and things got better. But at some point, when, especially for Christianity, this is especially for Christianity, but at some point, in order to become perfect, it needs to be a world that is totally dominated by their own religion. So you see the problem here.
Mm-hmm.
And this has been inherited by the post-Abrahamic ideologies that continue to function on the same ideological lines. As I mentioned communism. They have the same idea. People were not evolved, and they progressed, and then we are now at the point where the last step is to convert the entire world to communism, and then there will be an ideal society. The perfection of society, the perfect world. And the same idea is the scientism, the religion of science, like blind belief in science. Exactly the same idea. In the Hindu Vedic concept, we have a cycle of 4 yugas, which instead of becoming better, they become worse. They degrade. We start with the Satya Yuga, or the Golden Age, which was also the idea of the ancient cultures before Zarathustra, before Abrahamic religions. So we have a Golden Age, and then people start to lose it, and they're not so interested anymore, they're not so intelligent anymore, they don't like to do the effort, and so gradually we have a degradation, and we go through Treta Yuga, then Dwapara Yuga, then Kali Yuga. At the end of Kali Yuga, there is a general cleanup, and then the Satya Yuga starts again. So it's a constant cycle, but it's not the eternal fixing of the problem. And especially, it's not that everybody has to convert to the same ideology and religion. So the other big difference is what we call dharma and adharma. Dharma is something that has no equivalent in Abrahamic religions. But unfortunately, it has been translated simply as religion. So there are people who speak of Hindu Dharma and Christian Dharma and like that, which doesn't make sense, because it's not the correct understanding of the term. Dharma is an inherent nature. That's why it's generally called Sanatana Dharma. We have Sanatana Dharma and Swadharma. We don't have criminal Dharma. We don't have Rakshasa Dharma. I don't know, is it clear?
Yes.
Okay. So, all dharmas, all forms of dharma, are based on the same fundamental principles that are called Sanatana Dharma, which we have mentioned at other times, which basically are honesty, compassion, purity, cleanliness, But we don't have those in the Abrahamic ideologies or religions. Dharma, we can define Dharma as the fundamental principles of natural ethics, which are universal and eternal. Every human being can feel if something is good or bad. Now, Abrahamic religions and post-Abrahamic ideologies say that this natural ethic does not have the sufficient importance, does not have more importance than the orders of God and the priests. So, this particular concept has been expressed by the Christian ideologues, like popes, like that, as relativism. Relativism means that they make a fundamental distinction between the relative truth of human ethics and the absolute truth of the orders of God. So if the orders of God go against the natural human ethics, which are relative, they are to be followed anyway because they're absolute, because they come from God. So if God tells you, or through a priest or mullahs or whatever, that it is good to kill innocent people just to show some, to scare the general population, for the Abrahamic ideologies, this is God's order, so it is more important and more powerful than your conscience that say, why we have to kill innocent people? We have to make innocent people suffer for what? There is no point. But that is considered a relative, not absolute consideration, human consideration, which is not a divine consideration. So this is the reason why you go and see in the Bible that, this Yahweh, this God, creates all the human beings, and at some point he's not so happy, and so he drowns everyone with a great flood. Because he's pissed, he's angry, he's frustrated because his creation didn't come out well. So he kills everyone. But that's a divine action. It doesn't come under the normal ethical norm, so you cannot say it's good or bad. It's divine, it's absolute. You follow? Okay. You close your microphone. There's some
Yes. Oh,
noise in
sorry,
the
I was on.
background. Okay. No, if you keep your microphone on, maybe we can. It's easy. Anyway, as you like. So, what do you think? Is this clear enough?
Yes.
Any comment? Yeah. Oh, okay. You were talking with your daughter, I think.
She is. So that's why I kept it on mute. She is
Yeah.
texting
Yeah. No,
something.
it's okay. It's nice. It's nice. Okay. Okay. So, okay, so we see what is the present situation. So my suggestion in the book is we have to go back to respecting the mother goddess, which is nature. And I explain the idea of fundamentalism, which is also important because in itself the word fundamentalism is not negative. It derives from the word fundamental, which means essential and basic. Which means that a fundamentalist is someone who actually seriously applies the foundations of the ideology that is following. So, okay, it goes on about how to apply this solution. Then, yeah, exactly. This is the historian Lynn Townsend White Jr. in a lecture at the American Association for the Advancement of Science mentioned that in 1966 that the root of the present environmental crisis is religions, because it is due to the attitude towards nature created by the Christian dogma. And this damage has been caused by the destruction of the pagan animism, means the ability to see God in nature. So this is the quote. Both our present science and our present technology are so tinctured with orthodox Christian arrogance towards nature that no solution for our ecological crisis can be expected from them alone. Since the roots of our trouble are so largely religious, the remedy must also be essentially religious, whether we call it that or not. We must rethink and refeel our nature and destiny. Which is interesting. So we start describing what are the Abrahamic faiths. So who was Abraham? And Abraham is actually has been recognized by, for example, by Dr. Robert Wexler, president of the American Jewish University of Los Angeles and curator of the publications of the Jewish Publication Society in New York, has explicitly stated that most modern biblical scholars do not consider Abraham to have been a real person. So, okay, this is interesting. So, this is the foundation of the Abrahamic religions. Then we go on analyzing the various.
Like
Yes.
when these discussion happen, like do Abrahamic scholars challenge this notion that it is against? No, maybe they may say that it is interpretation wrong. We are not against environment and all. Like, do they come back with some sort of refutation on this, or
No,
what's their
actually,
stand?
there
Like,
is a distinction between the scholars and the politicians. And I think we can understand, because there is the same problem with Hinduism. Probably that's why they're so cozy with Israel. So the idea is that now not only this guy, but practically all the scholars, all the Jewish scholars, agree that the stories of the Bible are not history. They're just literature, fiction. But this is not told to the general people, and especially is not carried on by politicians, because the politicians need to have the stories of the Bible as a support for what they want to do today. So, just like the Bible was composed around 170 BCE to create the kingdom of Israel that didn't exist before that. So they're using the same stories and the same idea to build the state of Israel today. So they cannot come up with, telling people it's all stories, it's all mythology, because they need to show that this is the history, these are our roots. But my research in the last several months, I think it's about 2-3 years now, not just a few months, several months, has shown that in fact it has been very widely demonstrated that the archaeology has demonstrated that the stories of the Bible are totally false. They're totally, false. It means fictional. They never happened. But they are propaganda stories that support the political purpose, because the entire story of the Bible, the Old Testament, is based on the promise that this Yahweh guy of the Bible made to Abraham. He said, you worship me and I will make you the owner of the entire world. I will give you this land, which is the promised land. You heard the promised land. I will give you this particular promised land as your exclusive land, property, and from there you will rule the entire world. This is what Yahweh told Abraham, and it's there in the Bible, in the official Bible. This is the point. So, of course, they don't come out with a disclaimer, or at least they don't allow, regular people to hear about any disclaimer. It's just on the, in the area of, the higher academic circles. And I think we can apply the same dynamics, the same logic, for example, to the digital world, the AI, the artificial intelligence world. We have seen the greatest, pioneers, the founders of this science, who have come forward very candidly saying that we have to stop it because that is going to destroy society and the world, and it's totally out of hand, and it's not good for people. It's not good for mankind. And we have economists at the high level, the expert economists, who say that this AI bubble is going to explode, and the first step is going to create so much unemployment, which already it is. Yeah? And then people will be obsolete. People will be eliminated. So, in spite of that, the governments keep pushing on artificial intelligence and digital, dependence. Also, the environment experts, they have very clearly said that artificial intelligence is the greatest devourer of electricity on the planet. That the data centers are, devouring the greatest amount of electricity, and they're very polluting in that sense, but who cares? Nobody's telling people. You see the problem.
Mm-hmm.
There is a very split, a division, a crack between the knowledge and the propaganda. Because the propaganda is based on what is convenient for the power, while the knowledge is, usually not so comfortable. So this is the reason why it's still going on. But we see, so so we are talking about the origin, the basics, the foundations of the Abrahamic ideologies, and the concept of religion. Many people make a distinction between religion and spirituality. In a sense, it's true that religion is something usually more social. It's a community-based thing, while spirituality is a personal experience, individual, personal experience. But the two things should go together. They shouldn't be against each other. Because if they are against each other, they're not opposed or not compatible. They're not going together in harmonious way, in cooperation. Of course, there will be a problem. Because people will have to behave socially in a different way than they are, they should behave spiritually, individually. Like, for example, let's make a very big example, very clear, simple. The spirituality of Hinduism and Vedic knowledge is based on the idea that we are Brahman, Aham Brahmasmi, we are transcendental, we are Atman, right? While the social religion is very much based on bodily, the identification with the physical body. So what we get? We get a contradiction that cannot be solved. So people become hypocrites, the religion becomes superficial and theoretical, and has nothing to do really with one's life. It's just a social opportunity, social occasion, which when this applies to the Abrahamic religions is a good thing, because if people can, when Abrahamic people, people who identify as Abrahamics, actually make an effort to know and apply their religion, they become worse people. They become, dangerous and cruel and destructive. While if they just, consider religion as a social opportunity, like, okay, they celebrate Christmas with Santa Claus and the Christmas trees. What about Jesus? Who cares? Which is good. Because if you actually get into the Jesus thing and the Bible thing, actually the Bible, the Old Testament says that one should destroy all the trees. Like what? Yeah. It's in the Old Testament say, because people at that time were respecting trees and nature as sacred. They say, no, you must destroy all the trees because only God is sacred. Only me. I'm a jealous God. So you see the problem. So in that case, if they just remain superficially, mechanically religious out of a community social feeling, it's okay. It's not a problem. Merry Christmas. Yeah. It's okay. No problem. Tell, you're saying something.
No, I just nodded that.
I don't know. I think it might be unpleasant as a knowledge, information, but that's a fact. That's true. It's not that if we skip over the unpleasant truth, it will disappear. We cannot pretend everything is okay. We can pretend everything is okay, but then we have surprises. So, like the first Muslims who visited India, they didn't come telling everyone they're going to kill and destroy and everything. They just came to, find out, to explore, to talk to people, to record what they were visiting, right? And the same thing also, the first Christians, and especially the British, they did that. They started by commerce, they started, we're just here to buy stuff, and everybody will say, oh, yeah, sure, no problem. Oh, what nice books you have here. Yeah, sure. Can you translate them? Yeah, sure, no problem. So, it was not the translation. The problem was not the translation. The problem is that they presented themselves as favorable, but they had a different type of ideology. So that the real intention was not what they showed it to be. And this particular concept that is going against the basic principle of dharma, which is called satyam, this particular concept is clearly presented as a religious principle in Abrahamic ideologies. In Latin, which is the language of the Catholic Church, of the early church, it's called propaganda. In fact, propaganda is a part of the Latin expression propaganda fidei, which means that which should be propagated or broadcast or presented about the faith, about our religion, which is not what it actually is, but just what can be propagated, should be propagated. And Muslims have call this principle taqiyya. You heard about taqiyya?
Yes, I think you only explained it
Yeah.
some time back. To hide the facts and
you are expected to lie, but by not saying unpleasant things that are true, and by saying pleasant things that are not true, which means lying, basically. In order to propagate Islam, to present Islam under a nice light, a good light. So this is called taqiyya. So when you tell people, oh, Islam is, the religion of peace, equality, non-violence, it's that's taqiyya, because you go and see what happens in the countries where Islam is a state religion and there is a majority of Muslims. You see how this is actually the opposite of the facts. And the exact same concept in Hebrew, in Jewish religion, in Hebrew, is called Kol Nidre. And they have one festival each year. I think it's called Purim. I'm not sure, but I know that they have one festival each year in which they ask officially forgiveness to God for all the lies they have been saying all the year long. So they do some worship, and then now they're okay. And they continue to lie until next year, so they have another religious ceremony. Oh God, we had to say some lies, but it's okay. Okay. Then they start again. And this is also seen, for example, in the Christian concept of the absolution. The confession and absolution means you can do all the things you want. Then in Catholicism, you go to the priest. And you officially repent. And in Protestant Christianity, you don't go to the priest, but you repent by yourself, or you confess to the congregation or whatever. And then you're clean again. So there is the famous song, "Oh, a happy day when Jesus washed my sins away." It means that you can continue to commit all sins possible because Jesus is going to wash them away. No problem. You just worship Jesus and God, and you can do whatever terrible things you like because, your faith, your accepting Jesus is purifying you from all the sins. Not in the sense that you stop committing sins. It doesn't purify you from the intention of committing sins, because that you want to keep. But it purifies you from the effects, the results, the consequences. So you can go to heaven. And this is it has been taken up by some New Age, neo-abrahamic Hindu, groups who say that when you take the initiation, you take Diksha, the Guru removes all your sins, or all your karma, all your consequence, And after that, also Guru is taking up all the sins that you commit, because Guru is God. So I have faith in the guru, and then all your sins will go away. You can do whatever you want, but the guru is taking away the sins by taking them on himself, which is not a very intelligent thing to think. But okay, this is happening. So this is why I'm so often trying to warn people about the cultural ideological superimpositions that Hindus accept from the Abrahamic ideologies, and they mess them up. They accept them as their own because they don't understand what they're doing. Like, for example, one of the most evident, obvious things in this regard, examples in this regard, is the attitude towards women that has been absorbed by Hinduism from the Islamic domination, like the purdah, or the veiling, covering the head and not showing the body, stuff like that, which has actually nothing to do with the original Vedic or Hindu culture. Because if you go, for example, in South India, and you see some really ancient temples, the deities and the figures around the temple, the artistic figures, they are not exactly wearing a lot of clothes. Which is like what? The idea that one has to cover up, completely is a typically Muslim idea. Look at the burqa. So when we go in places where there has not been so much Islamic domination, you'll find women are much more relaxed. They don't wear the sari on their head. They don't bother so much. If you go to Rajasthan or Gujarat, where there were a lot of Muslim influence, you see the women actually even cover their face almost with the sari, because it's considered indecent not to cover their face and head. So where is that coming from? It's not coming from the Hindu Vedic tradition. So that's the problem that I started to see about like 20 years ago. I started to work on this concept, and I have done a lot of analysis, and I found it's really a fact. And about 20 years ago, I started also to study the Abrahamic cultures and ideologies, just to become able to better separate the cultural superimpositions that Abrahamic ideologies have, imposed over the Hinduism and the Hindu tradition. And I found, lot of work there to be done. So here I'm talking about the meaning of religion, dharma, which is different from dharma, and the corruption, which is the generation. Then to really solve the problem of corruption. I was writing this book several years ago when I was in India, in fact. Then I was watching the BJP, doing stuff. So, okay, so going on, the social damage, and the connection. What is the idea of religion as connection among people? So, when religion is when the spirituality becomes a connection among people. The word religion comes from Latin religare, which means to connect, while spirituality comes from the word spirit, which we can translate as Atman, as opposed to matter. So like kshetragya as distinct from kshetra, as Bhagavad Gita is explaining. So when we actually realize our spiritual transcendental nature and the spiritual transcendental nature of God and all beings, all life and everything, that is spirituality. Then when we apply this realization to our relationships with other beings in society, then we call it religion, because it connects us through this consciousness. But of course, if it's just a material social construct, that is not going to work, because it's against the very principle of spirituality. So people are usually very confused about what spirituality means. Then I discuss here about monotheism as opposed to polytheism, monolatry, and so on. And the basic, these are the basic ideological characteristics of Abrahamic religions. One is the exclusivity of cult and faith. Only their God can be worshipped, and only in the authorized manner given by the authorities. Then this means that all Abrahamic religions are actually natural enemies of Hinduism. They pretend to be compatible or friendly only as long as they don't have the power to stop it or destroy it or hijack it and derail it. Second, globalization and imperialism. All the Abrahamic the descendants of Abraham have this idea that each group of them, in fact, has the right, the divine promise of world domination. So you can see that these religions are supranational, but they want a political power. So their political power, the religious power of these religions, the political power of these religions, is not simply localized. It wants to conquer the entire world. So that's what is called imperialism and globalization. Then again here, as we we mentioned before, the strategy of deceit. So fake propaganda, censorship, criminalization of dissenters, persecution of free communication, character assassination, falsifying or destruction of documents and historical evidence, presentation, deceitful presentation of the ideological position of their opponents or even their own ideology. Infiltration, provocation, professional disinformers, the hijacking of other movement of groups and false flags of operations. These are all very traditional in Abrahamic ideologies. And this comes from the Bible. In fact, you heard about the Mossad?
Like that Israeli.
Yeah, secret services.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there is one book written by one former director, and I don't know exactly which position he had, of the Mossad, and the book is entitled "By Deceit You Shall Wage War," which is a quote from the Bible, from the Old Testament.
Okay.
This is the official motto of the Mossad. Official. By deceit, you shall wage war. So here goes the Dharma down out of the window. So, these are. Then we have the opposing the objective research, means it's discouraged. And in fact, anything that is not in conformity with the established authorities is discouraged, is discredited, automatically discredited, irrespective of the validity, the validity of the contents of the logical evidence. No, it's just dismissed and as not authoritative, because it's not in conformity with what the authorities say. Even if it's true, it's not good, because it's not what the authorities say, so it cannot be true. This is very specific of the Abrahamics. Then the denial of the natural ethics. Yeah. So, and the dogma of the linear historical development of the human history. The strong identification with the material body, with the physical body, which is also the basis for racism and birth prejudice, gender prejudice, and all that. Patriarchalism, and then we start the whole chapter about patriarchalism and the war against nature. So you know what patriarchalism means.
Like opposite of feminism.
Yeah, well actually, technically it's supposed to be the opposite of matriarchalism.
Yeah.
But feminism is not many people confuse feminism with matriarchalism, because actually feminism is just the movement for the affirmation of equal rights for women, the human rights for women. Patriarchalism is saying that women do not have any rights. So they think that matriarchalism means that men should not have any rights. All the women should have rights and men should not have rights. Just like patriarchalism says that men should have all the rights and women should have no rights. But feminism is like, we are women and we want some rights. Thank you very much. We don't want men to have no rights. But, we are people, we are human beings. Thank you, but the basis of patriarchalism is the war against nature. And then going on. And we have lots of nice information here about the cultural problems of violence. So we have, the culture of rape and child abuse. We have, it's all there. Then, okay, and we have, the basis is, for example, the Hebrew word for wife is Beula, which means owned woman, which means that the sin of having desires for the woman of someone else is on the same level of desiring the property of someone else. So it's a violation of the law of property. And in fact, in Italy, for example, the rape was considered just a violation of decency, not a crime against a person. So it was just something indecent. Until the 1960s, when the law was changed. So it became a crime against the person, not against the public morality. There was no difference between what they called adultery and rape, which means there is no problem in consensus. I mean, the victim doesn't need to be consensual. It's okay. There's no point. It doesn't matter at all if the woman was agreeing to the act or not. No point, because women were just object, property. So yeah, that is pretty recent. Still pretty recent. And I know that in India, Christians have been doing a lot of propaganda that Christianity is liberating women, making women free from the oppression of Hinduism, blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, right. Okay. Then, so the patriarchalism goes on and on and on and on and on. There's a lot of stuff. And in fact, in patriarchalism, it's not that men are actually happier. But, people think. So another important difference between Abrahamic cultures and the Hindu Vedic culture is the concept of reincarnation, which is totally opposed by the Abrahamic cultures, the Abrahamic religions. Then we go on and on and on, about the identification of the material body, the physical body. They don't accept the idea of karma. They think that karma is cruel. The law of karma is cruel, so cruel. Okay. And if someone believes in reincarnation, they should be killed because they're heretics. They're against the teachings of God. So we see what happened in the last 50, 70 years in the West, which has changed the situation a lot. So anyway, so this is a general idea. I see that we have done already about 1 hour, more than 1 hour. I don't know, you want to say something? Any comment?
No, like these things, these things should be known. Like, if you talk to like Indian liberals, they will not
Exactly.
know. They only know whatever,
Exactly.
like Brahminism was bad, Hinduism was bad, and all, but
Exactly.
they don't know what.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So we need people to actually get some more, solid information. They can go and verify. Why not? These are all verifiable information. We can get any Bible, and we can find all the references very easily. In the West, we have been doing that for, almost 2,000 years. Yeah, that we have been fighting against Christianity. Even in the center of Christianity, even in Rome, there's a very famous, rebellious movement against Christianity and the Pope. That in spite of all the persecution still continued. Anyway, okay, so I don't know, maybe if it is useful, we can continue next time.
yes, definitely.
If you have any questions, that would be very useful, because I think that if you can help by giving some of your perspective, which is my perspective, of course, could be different, so I want to understand how to actually present this information to people who are coming from an Indian background, because I've not done that so much yet. Because usually I'm talking about the Vedic culture, the Vedic knowledge, and like that. But this is also very, current affairs, as they say. So, very useful. Okay, thank you so much. We'll talk again.
Thank you.
Jai.
Sure.
Okay, so I let you go to your happy dinner. Jai. Jai Shri Radhe. Jai Jagannath.
Jai Shri Radha. Jai Jagannath.